Welcome, and thank you for joining Between Sessions with Justin and Challee.
Just a quick disclaimer before we start. This podcast is for educational and conversational purposes only. It's not intended to replace therapy, counseling, or professional mental health care. We are sharing lived experiences and reflections, not prescriptions, and we encourage our listeners to seek professional guidance when needed. Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Thank you for joining today. Have very special news to share that I'm
What could it be?
going to reintroduce Challee as she's passed her exam. So she is now Challee Saltzman LCSW.
Yes. What is this? You got confetti? All right. Well, you definitely one-upped me with my announcement for you, but okay. Thank you. Yes, I passed my exam. I'm so relieved. I'm just relieved I never have to take another test ever again. It's done and over with, and yes.
Congratulations.
You. All right. Well, to celebrate, I am so excited for today. So I posted on my TikTok. And if you don't follow us on TikTok. It is just Between Sessions with Justin and Challee, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it says official at the end of it, but I'll link it in the description for this episode.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I posted and I asked people, what is something that you have always wanted to ask your therapist? And I got I'm just excited I got responses, and I got some really good ones. So we are going to spend our episode today answering a couple of those questions.
So shout out. Thank you for whoever had commented on that. It's so nice to be able to see what is so relevant in the moment. I know we've done some different viewer requests before, and that's kind of been through different sessions and just in conversation. So we really loved the engagement. So thank you so much.
Yes. I get so excited. Like I got the first comment and I was just like, so excited. All right, so let me pull up the questions that we got. So the first one, and this is a really good one.
Okay.
Does the burden of other people's traumas weigh on you after a session? Do some stick with you? How do you disassociate afterwards so you stay clear-minded and not feel heavy from another one's grief?
So I think first off, let's break that down into a couple different parts because I think there's kind of multiple different answers and I want to be mindful while answering it. I don't want it to ever like evoke guilt or anything. This is kind of like a behind the scenes of it, at least in our experience. And I don't know how everybody manages it, but I know this is something you and I have talked about commonly. So I know similarly of like kind of how we manage this. So
And I love this question because Justin and I both specialize in trauma, specifically childhood trauma, either past or present. We work with a lot of kids that have trauma. So this is so relevant to
Yeah.
us.
And it is something that is so rewarding, but at the end of the day, it can come with its own challenges. But I think something we really try to do is make sure that challenge does not show up in a different session or come across as a challenge with the individual because it's not a challenge that is anybody's fault. Some things are just tough to experience.
Yeah, I don't ever want my client to feel like they have to take care of my feelings.
Right.
So
And I'm grateful that the person is even willing to share that again because experiencing it once, goodness, is so challenging. Then re-experiencing it by sharing it, especially in detail, that's a lot. So I'm grateful that you want to take the time to do that.
And a lot of times I'm speaking specifically to like kids that we work with. By the time they get to us, they've already had to tell whoever it was they told initially. Then they have to retell it to law enforcement probably a couple of times.
Yeah.
If the court systems are already involved, they've had to retell it again. So this isn't like they experienced it and then this is the first time they have to retell. This is like their fourth time having to retell what happened.
And that's if that first person believed them too. That's something that comes up with childhood or adult, but you might get a response that then shoves that back down, might be for days, months, or years. So you might be carrying that also.
So, first part of the question is, does the burden of other people's traumas weigh on you after a session? And my answer would be sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get cases that there's no way around. Grad school will tell you, leave it at the door, don't take your work home with you. But let's be real, we're humans. We have human emotions, and hearing something awful that somebody went through, sometimes it does weigh on you.
Yeah, I wanna second that. So, like, I would agree, like, in my experience, there are some times that it really sticks with me, and I think that shows the capacity of what someone is experiencing. To kinda go a little bit farther with that is something that we have spent a good amount of time doing, is finding ways to decompress after that, to participate in self-care. Something that I do often is journal about it, to be able to get it out, and I'm not giving identifying the information in the journal, but, like, kind of what it brought up for me. So then it allows me to be able to reflect, and then I can go back into that next session with them and think about what maybe it brought up for me, to then be able to utilize that empathy to be able to make them feel more comfortable, maybe pose a different angle to explore or look at a different perspective also. But through and through it, I always validate in the moment and try to make sure that I am as present. And this is something that is so weird for me because I have always worked in a very like strict clinical setting previously, where like I've teared up in a session with someone when they've told me something really challenging, or I've had a reaction, and it's not to make them feel like they need to take care of my emotions, but like there's sometimes that like you hear something, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't imagine having to experience that firsthand. And I do it to let them know that like it was a heavy thing. And it's also like it kind of happens naturally. Like it's not something that's planned to do it to cry on command. Like it just has shown up,
Mm-hmm.
which was not maybe acceptable or was not as like openly talked about, that it was okay to happen before I was in the environment that I am now. Have you ever had that happen?
I was just gonna say I've been pretty I'm a crier. I am a crier, but I have been really good with, I don't even know what the word is, not disassociating, but, like, pushing the crier in me, like, down. But I did have it happen for the first time, and it was actually so silly now that I look back on it, but it's valid, okay? I had someone tell me that their dog passed away, and, I mean, I've had people lose loved ones,
Hmm.
I've dealt with people having horrible assaults and just awfulness, and, like, that is the thing that I couldn't hold back. Like, I definitely teared up when they told me the news that their dog had passed away, and I'm just like,
I can so relate to that. Like I feel like genuinely I handle like the human distress much better than the animal.
"Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm."
Okay.
So, if I feel like something is really sticking with me though, because like, it's gonna stick with me, I would say, like, for the night. Like, I'm not just gonna walk out and be like, "Cool." Like, it'll stick with
Right.
me for the night, and I'll think about it, but if it's really, like, weighing on my soul, I guess, another thing I do is, I talk with my therapist
Yeah. Or
because nobody understands better than another therapist.
mhm, or reach out for supervision. That's where, like, I've reached out to you after a really tough appointment, and I've reached out to you, or I've reached out to, our owner to be able to just talk it through with someone else, and just as though it's helpful for the individual sitting in the chair in front of us to talk it out, it gets us off of us to be able to share that, and also with another professional where there is less of an impact in a sense because they weren't firsthand experiencing it.
Right. Yes. Yep.
Ooh, good. Then what was the second part of that question?
So, does the burden benefit do some stick with you?
Yeah.
And then, how do you disassociate afterwards so you stay clear minded and not feel heavy from another one's grief? So, we pretty much covered all of it, I
Yeah.
think.
I think back to one of the times that you had talked about, and it was more maybe like you had experienced something with like a ADHD flare where you literally just had to take some time and sit on your floor and ground yourself before you got into the next session. And I think that applies here as well. Like there's times that I have just taken a minute, taken a walk outside, texted the person that I had next, hey, I'm running a few minutes late. I just had to get a breath of fresh air, or had to just take a minute, maybe go get a snack, get something to drink. I think just getting up and, like, leaving that environment for a minute, getting a breath of fresh air, whether it be physically outside or just, like, getting up and walking around, kinda helps shake it off a little bit to show up
Mhm.
better for the next session. The other thing is that specifically where we work, like, we have the backing of, like, if something was really heavy, if we dealt with a crisis, if something really came up, we can shift that next appointment. We can call on one of our coworkers, "Hey, can you jump in and help me? Can you give me 20 minutes? Can you meet with this person? Can we reschedule that next person?" We've always gotten backing on that. So it
Yeah.
takes some of that pressure off to like have to show up perfectly. We have some grace.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's a huge, huge thing. Is if we're really struggling with something, we can cancel because we are human.
mhm. Yeah,
Cool.
very good. Thanks for that question. Look out for a reply
Yes. Yes.
in there.
This other one is also so good. They're all so good. How does therapy wrap up? My last therapist and I ended because my insurance changed. Now I love my
Ooh.
therapist and we are making good progress. But like, at what point do we end? Will it be her saying you got to move on, or is it me saying I'm good with a little emoji? Love.
Love that. Such a valid question. I feel like this is something that comes up often. It's not really talked about, like that termination period. It's uncomfortable for both sides, but communication is key in it.
Funny story. So when I was in grad school, we were doing mock sessions with our classmates, and we got to like the end of the semester. And so we were like terminating our mock client. And we had, I forgot how long, it was supposed to be like 20 minutes, and it was on Zoom, and the professor was on Zoom. So it was like me and not you, but it was me and a classmate.
Yep.
And like the classmate was pretending to be the client. I was being the therapist, and the instructor was observing. And it was supposed to take 20 minutes. It took me an hour, and my professor had to be like, we need to wrap things up because my classmate did me dirty. And she like had a breakthrough, a fake breakthrough. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And we had to terminate because the client was moving. But I just remember it taking so long because I had no idea how to say goodbye.
Right.
But I've gotten better at it. So what do you do? Or do you want me to go first?
So I will be super transparent. This is something I still so struggle with. I have always kind of struggled with this part, and I worked in an environment before where it was very much more limited time. So now coming in and working private practice sessions can be extended for longer. So I feel more comfortable getting to a point of termination rather than like a very like strict and targeted here, this is X amount of sessions that you're required to do or have to do, and then we have to be done. So I think that changes. So I think this might vary in what level of treatment we're in or what setting we're in also. So for me now, I am really open with communication, and I really try to let the individual that I'm working with drive this and reassure them throughout, even starting as early as the first session, saying like, this is for you now. This does not have to be a forever thing. I want you to let me know how you're feeling and how you're doing with the progress. And this is something I want you to be comfortable with throughout. So I'm going to continue to bring it up and have those check-ins. For us, super conveniently, we have treatment plans. So we have points that we check in and review progress as it is. And it's something that I try to do a session that has reflection and then ask like, okay, do you still think we need weekly? Do you want to go down to bi-weekly? And I do it gradually. I don't just go
Same.
from, yeah. So I don't go from like weekly to then be like, see you later, bye, we're done. It's a gradual process. And then I always leave that door open through that transition period of, okay, if we get to biweekly or we get to every 3 weeks or monthly and we need to go back, or it's a triggering time, it's a tough time of the year, we can always go back to it. It's the door's not closed. And I do even say that when I've finished with people, like we've already worked together. And I think you have shared this as well, but like you can come back to therapy. That door is not closed forever. You can come back. It's not a weakness, it's a strength to know when we might need some assistance or we need someone to help talk through. And we've already built that rapport. So we get to start out and hit the ground running. So a slow transition, I really try to make sure that it's at the individual's pace. Even if there's sometimes that I might be hesitant, I will kind of express those concerns, but still put the ball back in their court. If they're like, hey, I really want to be done in 5 weeks, we'll go at that pace too. So I think communication is key with this. The more unfortunate ones of like insurance changing, moving, those type of terminations, it's a little bit out of those hands, but being able to make sure just communicating through it, providing resources. So if it's someone is changing insurance and it's not something that I'm able to do anymore, I make sure that it's a smooth and warm handoff to someone else. Hopefully it's even someone that I've communicated with before. So I know that they're going to good hands. Or if like they're moving, we'll look up resources in that area. And in New York, we get a grace period of being able to meet with someone if they move out of state for a couple weeks to get them established in that next area. So just trying to be as informed as possible with it and transparent about it. What's your thoughts? I know that was long-winded. How do you do this transition or termination period?
So putting aside insurance changes, moving, and I also terminate sometimes For attendance,
Oh, I forgot about that one. I've struggled with that one, but it's
it's
needed. It's a boundary.
I know it's so hard, but I have people that are waiting to come that will come to every appointment and really benefit from it. So I can't hold the spot for somebody that shows up sometimes and doesn't, and blah, blah, blah. So I've had to enforce my attendance policy.
And you have a generous attendance policy. It's not like they missed one appointment and they're canned. Like, that's also not what it is. You inform them throughout the process. You make it very well aware that,
And it's also like very fluid. I think the biggest pet peeve is when people just no show multiple times. I think
yeah.
that's when I'm like, okay, we need to. And I actually said to somebody, like, my time is valuable. I value your time, but my time is also valuable. But yeah, aside from those ones, I do the same thing. So I will decrease. So if somebody is weekly, usually you just kind of know, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, because if you come in one week and you're like, I don't have anything to talk about, like my clients that I'm like, I have a good rapport with, I will jokingly be like, huh, you're cured. See you later, alligator. But in reality, coming in and not having something to talk about that week, it actually is very cool to me because it opens up like you have no current events to discuss. Like, let's talk about childhood or something like that. But if you're genuinely coming in and you're just like, so how's the fan? That's kind of where I'm like, So I will always phrase it like, listen, let's look back to when you first started. Like, you have come so far. I think it's time that we start decreasing sessions. And
hmm
I said, it sucks because I love seeing you every week. But for your benefit, I think we should start decreasing. So I'll always say, let's drop down to biweekly. But if anything comes up in those 2 weeks, you can contact me.
right.
If you get to a week and you're just like, no, I really need to talk to you, like, let me know. And then we'll go to bi-weekly. And then we'll try that out for a little while and I'll say, like, how you feeling? Everything good, doing bi-weekly, blah, blah, blah. And then I will sometimes drop them down to monthly. And then I don't drop down any more than that. So monthly is my kind of cutoff. But after monthly, if we continue to just have a good steady session and we've met our goals and so forth, then I will say, like, all right, this is the part of the job that I really don't like, but I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't say it. I think we should I think we should try to part ways. I don't know how I actually say it. I haven't had to do it in a little bit, but
Mhm.
like I will say, like, I think you're doing really great. And oh, you know what I say? I say, I think we should go to an as needed basis where
Mhm.
like you're still going to be like active in our system. A lot of people worry that like I'm going to discharge you. And then if you need something, you have to start from square one and get back on the wait list and blah, blah, blah. No, not necessarily. Like, if you reach out to me, I'm going to do everything I can
Mhm.
to get you back in. So it's not starting from scratch. So I always tell them, like, let's drop down to an as needed basis. And, from there, if you need anything, you just reach out, call me, call the main line.
Mhm.
And so that's how I do it.
Something I want to add that I think you made a really good point is like that kind of knowing of like just like feeling like things are good. There's progress being made. And sometimes we may not be able to specifically like pinpoint of like this is what changed and this is what changed. But I think looking back on it in my experience, it's we're coming in with less crisis. We are
Yes.
maintaining those boundaries. We are having less challenges within our relationships or with peers or socially. And we're just living in a healthier way that is according to us, according to the individual, not me. But being able to know that that progress is made, even if we don't see it, because we've made that over a long period of time, it's harder to identify.
I totally love that. Okay, last one. Oh, but you know what? Just to comment on that, if you feel like you've made progress and your therapist hasn't said anything, for sure, say something
hmm
because there's an ongoing conversation for everyone. Not everyone is as comfortable at having that conversation. So if you're feeling that way, definitely, definitely bring it up. No one should take offense to that. No therapist should be like, wow, you hate me. Like, so
And I don't want you to get therapy out. Like, if this is not useful for you, that might deter you from ever coming back if it was necessary, or it might impact your view on therapy. Many times we think about the ending of things. If it started out well and was great throughout it, but then it was a drag at the end, it might have been going on for too long.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
I have one more question. This one threw me a little bit. How do I tell you the whole history of toxic behaviors by my in laws without you accusing me of acting like a victim? Have strong feelings.
Ooh, I want this initial
Okay.
response.
So if a therapist ever tells you that you are like playing the victim, that's a terrible thing to say to someone. However, you want to I feel like once I built a good rapport with someone, there is such a thing as, like a victim mentality. But to call someone out and accuse them of acting like a victim,
Uh,
like that's so different. So I want to point out there that if you have a purely victim mentality, we can definitely work to kind of like shift that. Maybe some like cognitive behavioral
mhm.
therapy would work, but
And that can be generational too. So that's where I want to take some of that off. Like, that might be something that we have learned throughout generations, throughout our environment that we've been in, and that's workable.
yes, but if you go in and you're pouring your heart out to someone and they accuse you of playing a victim, like
Ick.
that's an ick. I'm sorry.
Ugh.
Nope. That's not a good place to be. Ugh, yeah, ick. Like, so I am so sorry if you ever had that experience where you
Yeah.
sat down with a therapist and you poured your heart out and you told them all about your toxic in laws and they said, like, do you think you're playing the victim a little bit? That's sorry, unacceptable.
And
They're
how invalidating.
so invalidating. There's definitely ways to like shift that mindset if you're stuck in a victim
Yeah.
mentality, but not right after you say everything. Like,
Right.
fine.
That's a process. You are entitled to your feelings. If we are not entitled to a lot in life, but we are entitled to our feelings and the way that we experience things, nobody can take that away from us.
Yeah. So that
Oh,
one really threw me.
yeah. But for someone to share that, like, someone had to have experienced that, I'm sure that's probably more than one. So, like, speaking to that piece, my heart goes out.
But thank you so much for sharing that because like what a vulnerable thing to share.
Yeah.
I'm so excited that we got people, willing to share their experiences, their questions. It
Mm,
was wonderful.
it's just a new perspective. Like, I know we've been able to kind of gather things just through like conversations, but to have someone really like direct in and have these specific questions, I love and appreciate that. So thank you.
So much. So
Thank you. Thank you.
much. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for today.
All right. I hope we get to hear more. Thank you so much.
Bye.